big break will be Thanksgiving. So I just wanted to sort of highlight that we know that this is a challenging time by the time we get to the 7th week of classes. We already hear from students, wow, it's been 7 weeks. Excited to be here, but I'm already beginning to feel fatigue. I'm feeling a little bit more exhausted than usual. Very understandable. This is part of the rhythm, and I think it's even more so as we are still navigating the pandemic. Our objective tonight is really twofold. One, for me to spend a little bit of time to tell you a little bit of what we're seeing coming through the door. And for me to have just a candid conversation with our families about how can we best support our students during what we know is a transition period. And then the second part of our discussion is to have my colleagues talk to you about the myriads of ways that students can engage on campus. And we also will have the perspective from our students. I often say that at the university, it's incredibly important as part of their social and personal development that our students engage in leadership and that they engage in collaborative work. And so you will find that quite a few of the opportunities that come up are student driven, and I would say staff mentored. That's sort of our philosophy, is to have things that are student driven and staff mentored as part of the learning for our students. So with that, let me quickly introduce some of our colleagues who are here with us this evening. Karen Casella, who is the director for new student program and family programs at the university. Many of you have heard from Karen, often are in conversations with Karen, so she's familiar to many of you. Marcy Campos, who's the director for our Center for Community Engagement and Service. And so she'll talk about the different opportunities for students to really get involved in experiential learning while they're at AU. Ayana Wilson, who's the director for our Center for Student Involvement, will talk about, again, the numerous ways that students get engaged on campus. We have Joshua McFadder, who is with our residence hall and is an associate director for sophomore and upper class students within our residence life. We have Reverend O, who is our university chaplain, and we'll talk about, again, some of the many ways that folks can get engaged. And we have Chris Nasty, who is with our rec fitness and really is going to talk about club sports, intramural sports, and really wellness in general, and again, how folks can get involved with that. And we have Lisa Freeman, who's the director for our residence life team as well. And then we have 3 of our students. We have Sonali Doshi, we have Emma Southern, and we have McLaren Skanes. And I'll let them say a little bit more about themselves. So I'm going to keep you in suspense, our families, so you can learn directly from them who they are a bit more, and what's their involvement, what's their leadership role here on campus as it relates to creating community, building community, and engaging the community writ large. So these are our panelists who are here this evening, and I'm very grateful for all of them for being here with us. With that said, I'm going to jump right in. I hear from parents a lot. My student doesn't know how to get connected to folks. My student is not getting information about all the things that are happening on campus. Or we're hearing, well, my student is not actually, there doesn't seem to be much going on campus. And I have a student, or I know someone who's at another university, and here are all the things that are going on. Let me first start by stepping back. And I think it's important for all of us to remember the why. Why are we here? And most importantly, what does the why look like in week 7 of classes? So when we made the commitment that we were going to reopen, we made the commitment that we're going to reopen with 2 things in mind. It is critically important that our students get back to campus, that they remain safe and healthy, and that they be able to pursue their education at American University. Translation, we want to make sure that they get their classes situated, that they're getting to their courses, that they're getting into the rhythm of what it means to be in college, that they're having the kind of engagement with their faculty and with their peers. And that in addition, they're getting situated with their housing, whether it's on campus or off campus, that those are going to be principal for us during the first 5 to 7 weeks. And so when I hear from parents that my student is having challenges getting connected, or my student is not making enough friends, or my students, there's not enough programming and so forth going on, I have to remind you all as parents that it's incredibly important for all of us to step back. This is overwhelming by any measure. For students who are going through so much change, coming from home, a new system, getting used to a different city, getting used to a different work, living arrangement, getting used to food and everything else. And it is incredibly important for all of us to remember the value of pacing ourselves, and most importantly, helping our students pace themselves. And I have to remind everybody, this is a 4-year endeavor. It is not a 1 semester, it is not a 5-week sprint. And so the more pressure we put on our students about the need for them to do all of these things, the more we are at risk of students being flat out by the time we get to October. And then what happens in terms of the remaining race that they have to do for the rest of the semester. So the first and most important, I would say, message for this evening is we all need to catch our breath. And as parents, we have to understand this is a 4-year program. It is not a 1 semester program. And so I feel like the most important part was, do they have their classes? Are they enjoying their academic programs? Have they made connection with their faculty? Are they beginning to know how to work in groups because their courses are expecting that? And for our returning students, have they gotten back into the rhythm of what it means to be back at American University? That is job number 1 and most important for all of us. Now we can then move from there and talk about, okay, what are all the different ways that they can get engaged? The other thing is, and I will readily admit, communication is a challenge. I mean, just last week and the week before, I would hear from some families saying, my student heard, I just learned about this Oktoberfest and the food truck, and my student received no information. And I'm like, well, I don't think that that's the case. And why do I think that that's the case is because every single student received an email, and it was a standalone email informing them about the Oktoberfest and how they could participate. And so part of the issue is not that there's not information. It is what are students paying attention to when it comes to information. And so there's a difference there. Because there's a lot of information that's flowing, but what we're finding out is students are not reading the information, and or it's literally, they may have read it, but then they may not necessarily remember that. And we try to really, in many ways, reinforce the information through multiple gateways. Email, certainly, but social media. And we try to make sure that we have signage up through our 4 winds. So while they're in elevators, while they're in the main centers, that they can actually see the information as well. So it's possible that students are maybe overwhelmed, but it's not that information is not being produced and that information is not being disseminated. And I think it's important for all of us to kind of remember that. The other thing as well is there's always 3 sides to a story. And I have to remind all of us about that. There's always 3 sides to a story. So when you hear from your student, I tried to connect to this and nothing happened, okay, that's one side of it. The question is, what was the approach to getting connected to it, perhaps? And then also, more importantly, is it possible that sometimes maybe as families, we're trying to direct and to nudge and to push our students in a certain direction, but that may not be where they want to go? And then in trying to be maybe just more polite, they're going to say, oh, no, nothing is happening. But in fact, what they're actually talking about is, this is not what I'm interested in. And so I've said this before, and I'm going to say this again. As part of their personal development, we need to let go. And we need our students to have a bit more agency around the steps that they need to take and when they need to take it. There is not a playbook for what success looks like. It's different for every student. And so it is not one of those situations where, well, if you haven't made 5 friends, that there must be something that's not working. Or if you were not interested in this organization or that organization, that there must be something that's not working. It's incredibly important, and we see this a lot. Students will give a narrative sometimes to families. It is an incomplete narrative. It's an incomplete narrative. And part of it is they're trying to signal the need for their own independence. And I think with COVID and with everything else, and the fact that students were home, perhaps for a longer period of time than they've been, we're finding that families are having a really challenging time of letting go. We have seen an increase in anxiety from families in a way that I haven't seen in my 30 years working with families. And what I will also say in this instance is that anxiety is being transferred to your students. They're feeling it. It may be at a distance, but they're feeling it. And in feeling that, that is not going to help. That's going to make them even more anxious. And so our ability to please step back, for all of us to really remind ourselves the why, and making sure that we're sequencing things appropriately is incredibly important. And so first and foremost, there are multiple sides to the story. And you may be hearing a side, but it's not complete. Second of all, there's a lot of information that's going on, but maybe they're overwhelmed and they're not necessarily picking up on all of what's there. But the most important thing is getting to classes, getting adjusted to the environment that they're in, and then there will be time for engagement. And that engagement will come at the rhythm that they're ready for. And I think that's the most important part of this. And I thought it was important for me to start there. And then the other piece I want to say is, because sometimes we hear, well, the RAs should be doing more. Let me remind all of us, RAs are students first. And as all students, we want to make sure that we have realistic expectations of everyone. We need to have realistic expectations of our students and the pace at which they should go. We need to have realistic expectations of our students and the responsibilities that they have in their leadership role, understanding that it is key for all of us to have a measured approach to what we're trying to engage with. And that becomes an important piece. So I think first and foremost to say, we are thrilled that our students are back on campus. We can feel the energy, we're sensing the energy, and that is wonderful. But this is just the first semester, and we have many more to go. And so our ability to pace ourselves, I think, is going to be critically important. Karen, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to a little bit of the framing here, but this letting go piece, you're going to hear from me parents a lot. We're going to all have to learn how to let go.
No, Fanta, I think you've got it. These are exactly the messages that I've been sharing with families, and we're getting feedback in the chat that you're hitting the right notes with this, and they've had similar conversations at home with their students. So I think we're good.
And the other thing, families, that I can say to you is, you have raised them well, and you have to trust that. You've raised them well, and you have to really trust that, you know? And so from that perspective, it's okay if what they've encountered is one friend. All you need is one person. You don't need 10 for you to feel like, okay, you know, that's what, you know, success looks like. And I think we get so many messages from social media, from the environments that we're in, that I think for those of us who are the adults, we really have to be mindful of those messages, implicit and explicit, and the extra stress that it places on our students in terms of the expectations that we have. And so I really want to preface that. I've seen our students, they're more than capable. Are they going to stumble? Absolutely. But it's not going to be the end of the world in stumbling. And you've raised them well to know, you know, what's important and how it's important. And we are an educational institution, and our primary objective and mission is the education of our students. Everything else is a wraparound, but it is about the education first and foremost. That is what we're charged to do. And that's what the students have come to make sure that, you know, gets accomplished. And so with that, we're going to jump into student and what are the ways students can get engaged. And again, there's no playbook for it. It's going to look different for different students. So what we want to do tonight is to give you the menu of options and the range of options that are available for students to connect. And I always say all they need is to connect to one thing they're passionate about. And that is all they need. We don't want students to get engaged with 5 or 6 different things. Because then what ends up happening is we see students then overwhelmed. We see them overextend themselves and so forth. So we're going to talk more about what are the options that are available. And first, so we're going to start with Ayana from our Center for Student Involvement.
Good evening, everyone. Happy to spend some time with our families today. I'm Ayana. I'm the director of the Center for Student Involvement. My office, we call ourselves the Hub for the Student Experience, and it's one of the first opportunities that your students will have to make their own decisions. So I like to say that our events and programs and organizations are student-run, student-led, and they're advised by professional staff in my office. So whatever the interest students have around student organizations, they can start a club. They're also learning how to work with their peers, learning how to manage conflict and be responsible for their decisions. So those are things that are happening at the level with our student organizations, which we have over 200 of, so there's plenty of options. And if for some reason they can't find an organization, they can work with our office to start one if there's an interest from students in something that isn't here. The first opportunity students have to kind of know what's on campus is the involvement fair that happens at the beginning of the semester. We do another one in the spring, early spring, because we want to make sure we include our transfer students or students who maybe missed or didn't have an opportunity. So there will be another version of that in the spring for students who didn't get the opportunity to do it at the beginning of the semester. In addition to that, our office does host some programming ourselves. So late night weekend programs, We also do some grab and go options. I'm hoping that a couple of families have been able to connect with us at some point this semester with some of that. That's been great. Student government is another great place for students to get involved. We actually just finished our fall elections, and I will tell you all that our first year students had the highest turnout for votes. And for the class of 2025, we had students running for all of the positions. So your students are ready to get engaged and ready to get connected, and they're finding their footing, which is what we're here to help them do. Some other options, again, student media. So if we have any journalists or aspiring journalists that are here, we have Photo Collective, the Eagle, Black Print, AWOL, lots of options there. And we have over 30 active fraternities and sororities on campus. And so they have opportunities to join those as well. Not their first semester, because like what Fonsa said, we want them to get their feet settled on campus before they jump in and join these organizations. But they can use this time to learn more about the groups and what they're doing on campus to go to their programming. And that's really what I encourage first year students and transfer students to do. Take a semester, look around at what's here and what's available before you commit. So that way, when you commit, you know you've explored all of your options. And then my staff and myself are here to help students find their fit, is the way I describe it. We've got club consultants that are peer-to-peer. If they want to talk to students, they can also talk to us as advisors. And there are events happening literally every day. The best place to find this information is through Engage, which is the last bullet here on our page. It's our online administrative platform that has our recognized student organizations, events that are happening every day. And your students have access to that just by logging in with their MyAU. So lots to do, lots to explore. That's what my office is here for, to help them kind of start stepping into their own and discovering what they want to do. And with that, I'll stop and pass it on to the next person.
Hello, everybody. My name is Marcy Campos, and I am the director of AU's Center for Community Engagement and Service. And we too offer lots of different ways for your students to get involved. We list some of them here, from Explore DC, which is what we do, during All-American Welcome, short-term service like MLK Day of Service. We have a great tutoring opportunity. Many people come to campus with a passion for working with young people because they've been doing that in high school, and you can do that as both a federal work study job or as a volunteer. We have student-led alternative break trips, which are on fall weekend, winter, spring, and summer. And we also have community-based learning and research, which is an extension of a class. It's applied learning in the community. So DC is a great city. And when I say great city, I mean beyond the museums and the monuments and the White House, there is so much going on. We have a huge nonprofit sector. And we have, in fact, about 12,000 nonprofits in DC. They're grassroots groups that do direct service. They're national organizations and international. So many young people come with passions, interests, social justice focus already. And what we try and do in my office is help match that experience or those interests with a way to get involved, be it in the city or on a more global level. We find students do a lot of this work in teams, whether they're tutoring in a team and led by an upper class leader, whether they go on an alternative break trip to South Africa and they have both a faculty or staff advisor and 2 student leaders, or through Explore DC. So we offer the opportunity to both do the service, but also meet and connect with other students. And then as you get into that experience and find it really resonates, there are many leadership opportunities to then guide, direct, or propose new ideas. Like one of the things we find is that students come and say, hey, I want to do my own project, but you don't have anything in the area I want to work on. I want to work on food security, and I don't see anything that's the exact match for me. So then we work with them one-on-one to figure out how to do that. And similarly to what Ayana said, we have community partner fairs, we have info sessions that are both online and in person. We do a lot of tabling on the quad outside. We speak in classes so students know how they can extend and apply that classroom learning through community work. We have a newsletter, and then we always welcome people to come by our office on the 2nd floor of Mary Graydon, talk to us, email us, or phone us, and figure out what's the right match, what is that program about, and how can I get involved. So basically, we feel very fortunate that AU as a community is very committed to kind of learning that goes beyond the classroom, because there is so much you can do and so many ways to get involved that will deepen that learning. And on top of that, so often those opportunities lead to internships and jobs. I have a whole network of alums I know who are working in the DC metro area who did various things while they were at AU, and they said, wow, this is absolutely what I want my commitment or my career to be about. And we want to keep connecting them and also bringing those alums back to campus to inspire our students. Thank you.
So I'm the Reverend Brian Oskvig. I go by Revo. I'm the university chaplain, and K Spiritual Life Center is a place for persons of all beliefs to explore meaning, discern their purpose, and find community. And we really understand that, all three of those things, like how we understand ourselves in this experience of life and what we are feeling ourselves led to in that experience, and how do we find a community of people to engage us in that conversation as we continue on. So, we invite our students and encourage our students to come and connect with our community. We have over 20 plus religious and cultural communities, because we understand that identity in sort of the classical religious context doesn't always make sense for some of our communities. So we have more than 20 different types of communities that connect through K Spiritual Life Center. And in that, there's opportunities for our students to engage different communities that have different perspectives or beliefs, where they can explore their own personal identity by getting involved with one of our communities that may be aligned with an identity that's important with them. And then find, this group of other peers who are having these conversations and exploring these ideas and looking for these connections. And, I encourage students to come into K and explore these different communities, because where else will you find peers who are practicing different meaning-making experiences in ways that are invitational by nature of others to be a part of them. So it's a great community to connect with and sort of have these novel experiences they may not otherwise have. We have a number of different events, Soup with Substance on a monthly basis, and others really easy to find, both on the American University website, but really, if you just web search American University and Chapel, or American University and Religion, or American University and K Spiritual Life Center, or just K, our website immediately comes up. It's really easy to find. We're also always out on the quad at Tuesdays at 2 p.m. for our tea time. We like the alliteration of Tuesdays tea time at 2, in which we're sitting out there to just engage students and share an Oreo and a cup of tea. We have cold tea, hot tea as a way of sort of connecting with our students and beginning that conversation with our students about where they may find their connection with the broader community and where they're finding their own connection with sort of that existential anchor in the midst of all that they're going through at the university. So thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Masti, and I'm here representing Recreational Sports and Fitness, or RecFit. We're on campus to help keep the students physically active and help motivate them to build physical activity and sport into their daily lives. You can see our website right there hosts all of our information, but in addition to the 2 fitness centers that we have on campus that all students have access to, we offer a variety of programs. I'll actually start with club sports. You can see off to the side, it's a little small. You can find this on our website. We've got roughly 25 different club sports, and just like student involvement, our club sports are primarily student run. We provide some administrative support to make sure that when they do travel to compete with other university club sports, that they do that in a safe way. But their practices are primarily run by them, and they handle their own travel schedules, which is a great way for them to develop as leaders, as well as really enjoying their sport. In addition to the club sports, we offer group exercise. We have 30 group exercise classes every week, ranging from indoor cycling to yoga to Zumba. Those are a great way for people to meet up other folks that have similar fitness interests. We have intramural sports. Those are just competitions within American University. If a student finds a sport that they like, they can register as a team with other students that they know, or if they're having trouble finding a team, they can register as a free agent and we'll actually help match them with other students. And we do that based on schedule. So, other people that can actually play at the same time they can. We also do a wide variety of special events, mostly aimed at connecting with the students who might be feeling a little bit hesitant to come through the front doors for the first time. So for example, just yesterday we had our Women on Weights program, and we're doing that again next Wednesday. And that's where we shut down one of our free weight areas and do an introductory program for female identifying students who just want to kind of, have a chance to learn about the fitness center in a little bit less intimidating environment. But going back to club sports, if there's a sport that your students really involved or excited about, they can go onto the website and they can email directly the kids that are in the club already, and that'll be a great way for them to connect with those students.
So our colleagues from Performing Arts are now with us this evening, but as an avid, I absolutely am in love with performing arts. And as one who literally goes to every production that our students have and our faculty in the Performing Arts department have, I wanted to make sure that you all were aware of this as well. Theater, musical theater, choral, vocal, instrumental, jazz, dance. We have a bachelor's program in dance. And the key thing about this is that it's for students who have an interest in and are very much wanting to maybe major or minor in it, but it's also to remind students that you can actually go and support other students. And so just last Friday, I was able to go to the first major performance from our first year students who are in the musical theater program, and it was absolutely amazing. I mean, just the energy in the room, and to be able to actually it was my first outing, let me just admit that, evening outing to any event of this type. And so I just wanted to make sure that our families were aware that there's a lot going on. Our chamber singers, the gospel choir, the a cappella groups, the symphony orchestra, I mean, the pep band, it goes on and on and on. And so for the students who are particularly interested in the arts, there is a vibrant community of art folks on campus. And so now that we're back on campus, the performances now are in person. And so I would encourage our students to really check those out. And the easiest way for students to know what's going on in terms of the arts is with this website. They can go onto the website and they're able to get the calendar of when all the performances are. And then as a result of that, they can kind of get their tickets that way to access the arts. So that's another piece that I just wanted to make sure families were aware of. And of course, the a cappella groups, there are many of them. And I know several students have signed up for that. And we're able to, during family weekend, really enjoy several of our groups who were able to perform at that. So definitely check out the theater and our different groups there.
Good evening. Thank you for all joining us, whether you're at your kitchen table, whether you're in the living room, in your bedroom. We thank all of you for joining us this evening. My name is Joshua McFadder. I'm the Associate Director for Sophomore and Upper Class Experience, which I always say is a fancy, high-dollar way of saying that I work for 4,000 students that call AU home. When you think of a campus facility and where students spend most of their time, the truth is that they're not spending most of their time in a student union. They're not spending most of their time, in some student affairs building. They're not spending most of their time even cheering on our great athletics. They're not spending most of their time in the classroom. Some of them are taking 15 credit hours. Maybe they're a little bit ambitious and they're taking 18 credit hours. But when you ask yourself, where do students spend the majority of their time? The answer is housing and residence life. So we believe housing and residence life is a place where you navigate roommate conflicts. Some of you are already talking to your student about roommate conflicts or conflicts on the floor, and how do they navigate those for the real world? It's a place where we talk about diversity and inclusion. People from all over, different races, different sexual orientations, different religion, coming together to live in community. It's a place where we talk about academic success. How do I be a better student? We believe housing and residence life makes you a better student. And we have data that proves that. It's also a place where we strive for connection, where we strive for those friendships, where we strive for that belonging. How do we help students discover who they are, belong here at AU, and thrive here at AU? As all of my colleagues have said, there's lots of opportunities. Floor programming, hall programming, living learning communities, our Residence Hall Association, which is sort of like our student government representing our residents. They will be putting on a Hollow Week with a Haunted Hall, with a Harvest Fest. All of this is coming up at the end of October. So when your resident comes to you and says, I don't know where to go, I don't know how to get connected, I feel like I don't belong. Yes, point them to the RA, that student leader who's on their floor. Yes, point them to the community director, the full-time master's level professional who lives in the residence hall with them. Yes, point them to Anderson Hall, where we are located. Our headquarters is located here in Henderson Hall, but also point them to the resources, the flyers, the floor group me, the different offices on campus. And that is a place where they can connect, a place where they can form those long-lasting friendships. We believe that housing and residence life is the center of AU life, and we strive to provide the opportunities. What I tell RAs every day is that we provide the opportunities. Sometimes we get 5 residents to come. Sometimes we get 10 residents to come. Some we might have 50 residents to come. But regardless of the size, it's about providing the opportunity. And if you go to our website and you're like, who do I connect with? Who do I talk about? Who do I get connected with and find these resources? Talk to your community director of your hall, and then they can go to the RA of that floor, and then they can go to that resident and try to provide the opportunity. And then hopefully the residents will reciprocate and come to those events. So we're glad that you chose AU. We're glad that 4,000 students call this home. We're working every single day when everybody goes home, as they should be, and they go to Maryland or they go to Virginia. I can guarantee you that in housing and residence life, we're still alive and well, 24/7, up and running with 4,000 residents on campus. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Josh. That was great, enthusiastic. So, at AU, we say that this is a community of change makers, and nothing says that better than our student leadership and what they bring to campus. Because really, I hope one of the messages that you're hearing tonight is that students are really the ones who take the lead here. And so for this next section, I'm going to invite Emma and then Sonali and McLaren to go ahead, introduce yourself, tell the folks on this call tonight your major, where you're from, and your current activities. We're going to start with Emma because she's coming straight to us from RHA. Emma, take it away.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Emma Southern. I'm from Westchester, Pennsylvania. I'm a second year. And I'm a CLEG major, so I'm very excited to be here. And yes, I am the president of the Residence Hall Association. We are a full on-campus organization that helps with different programming and advocacy for all of the students that live on campus. And so I am the president for the group that oversees the entire campus, plans for everyone, and we also have little subsects of groups that will plan things for single halls or groups of halls. And so we have a lot of things coming up. I know Joshua already mentioned our Hollow Week, which is really exciting at the end of October. That's something that's like a big event that happens every year. And so there's events every single day that we're either hosting or that we're attending and helping with. And so all of those events should be either communicated on social media, on Engage, which are also great resources to look for. And yeah, we're really trying to not only just host events, but also work with other student organizations. So we have a lot of partnerships, just working around campus that a lot of people are excited to come to these events. And I'm actually currently at an event technically that we're having over at the Frequency Apartments, which is one of the residence locations. It's located in Tenleytown, so we have a little thing going over there. So I just have decided to come to this call. So I really hope that students have been able to recognize a bunch of the different opportunities that are on campus for them.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Sonali Doshi. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm the director of the Kennedy, I'm a senior in the School of Communication, and I'm studying public relations and strategic communication with a minor in sustainability. I am the director of the Kennedy Political Union, which I was very excited to say. We are an organization on campus that brings speakers from nonpartisan. We're nonpartisan, but we bring speakers from across the aisle, from across the political spectrum to talk to our students and engage on some of the most politically relevant issues of today. I am also a member of Trouble in Paradise a cappella. We are the first women identifying group on campus. And I'm also a senior peer facilitator with the AU Experience program, which is something that we have students take in their first year. I'm sure your first years are in it right now. And so I have the wonderful opportunity of interacting with them on a weekly basis. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here today. I think that student engagement is there's such a wide variety of ways to get involved, and a wide variety of experiences that students have when they come to American, and when they get involved and how they get involved. And so I'm really excited to sort of provide my insights on that.
Hi, everyone. I'm McLaren Skanes. I just want to thank you all for coming and joining us tonight, or at least it's nighttime in DC. But before I jump into my things, I do want to give a big shout out to Sonali. She was actually my AUX peer coordinator last semester in the spring. So I love that. Love to see that she's here. But just to list a couple things that I'm involved in. So I am in Greek life. I also hold a leadership position there. I am involved in our Arabic club on campus. And I also hold 2 leadership positions with that organization as well. I'm an SIS Diplomatic Corps advisor, which I'll wrap back around to towards the end. And I was also an orientation leader this last summer, and I'm so excited to hopefully continue that this upcoming summer, as well as being a barista on campus at the Davenport Coffee Lounge. I love it so much. So those are just the things I'm involved in. I'm a current sophomore. I have had so far personally no trouble getting involved on campus. I'm one of those people that likes to take all the classes, likes to jump into everything, kind of get my hands into stuff. And I will definitely say, to speak from my experience as holding those leadership positions in Greek life and Arabic club, they are student run. We definitely have offices and national organizations that help us and guide us, but nothing happens without our student leadership positions there. So that's something that I can definitely bring to the table to talk about for students that truly want to, do something and, be a change maker starting here at AU. Forgot to mention my major, but I am SIS if you did not catch on to that. But yes, thank you all. And if you have any questions, please let us know in the chat.
Yeah, we're going to get some of those questions. Thank you, Eagles. That was a fabulous roundup, and what a great representation of activities on campus.
And
Yes,
Karen, I just wanted to add 2 things to this conversation. From what Joshua mentioned to what the students have said, I think this is important. From the staff perspective, and this is where I think sometimes maybe some of our families may have a different take on it than we do, and I think that's important. We talk about creating opportunities, but we really believe that it's important for the students to then step in and really seize those opportunities. And so one of the things that's not possible for us to do is to socially engineer friendships. And I know this comes up a lot because often I will hear from some parents, my student is not is not going to things, or my student, can you help match my student? And one of the things that we come back to again is that this is part of some of the life skills that we need to make sure that we continue to engage our students with. And Sonali and I were just having a walk the other day, because I try to stay in touch with our students and see what's going on. And when we're having the conversation, Sonali, you mentioned the fact that when you came in as a student your first semester, you were one of those students who was much more of an introvert. And you kind of had to learn to do more of that. And so I really want to remind our parents, as you see Emma and you see Sonali and you see McLaren, you're probably thinking to yourself, whoa, my student is not that. And what I want for you to understand is your student may come in and your student may be that introvert, And over a period of time, this is what the kind of social development we're talking about. And there's not a playbook for it. It doesn't happen for some the first week or the second week or even maybe the first semester, and that is okay. They have to carve their path, and that there's not, one magical time frame for when this happens.
Thanks, Fanta. We did ask families to submit some questions in advance. I'm just gonna go to the next slide. I think we've touched on some of these, but I'm gonna invite my students to jump in if there's a question here that resonates for you that you wanna lean in with. Maybe McLaren, since you've been working with orientation, if you can talk a little bit about the advisement that you share with students about how do they make those first connections? Like if they're shy, what do you recommend? How do we help folks feel more comfortable? Clearly you've shared that you're quite the extrovert. What do we say to our friends who are not?
Yeah, so definitely, and it can be scary to take that first step to, message somebody or even, go see them on the quad, right? And walk up to a table. So the number one thing, especially as an orientation leader over the summer, that we really pushed to our students was to use our Engage page. That is so useful. It's an online platform, so that can really take away the stress and the nerves of meeting someone in person. So our Engage page is great. That's where all of our clubs and organizations are located on campus. It's basically like a club reservoir for everything that we've got going on. You can search in keywords and see what pops up. I know for my two organizations, we use that. And you can find all of our events there. And that's one thing that I will say, using the Engage page, you can still join clubs mid-semester, maybe next week since it's midterms right now. But you can click on an event, and some of them are in person, some of them are on Zoom, and you can RSVP, or you can let them know that you want to come and see what it's all about in person the next time they meet. So definitely our Engage page, you can find any club you want there. Even our Greek life organizations are there. We've got our student associations, as well as lingual and cultural organizations as well. So definitely for the more shyer people, connecting online first might be a little bit easier instead of just going up and talking to someone immediately.
Awesome. I'm wondering, Sonali, if you can help with this other question I get a lot. Parents will often reach out and say, my student says that they've tried to connect with a club, they've left messages, they've called. And so, especially since KPU is so integrated with the rest of the club council and student government, can you talk a little bit about how club council is organized and what resources are available to help students find their clubs?
Yeah, absolutely. I can do my best. I think that the biggest thing that I would recommend to students who are struggling to hear back is go to the events when we're tabling in person, walk up to us and say hi. We're really nice. We love talking to people. And I think that we're the students that are really outward facing and really excited to talk to new people. And so walk up to us. If you recognize us, I know in my role as KPU director, I am on screen a lot in these Zoom webinars and people recognize my face. Walk up to me. I'm always happy to talk to you and have a conversation. And I think a lot of my peers would say the same. Social media is a great way to get in contact with us. And obviously, we're students, and so we're catering to students, which means that we have platforms that are particularly available to the students that are on our campus. And so we have Instagram pages, we have Facebook pages, we have of course, Engage, as we discussed. I think those forums are really great ways to get in contact. We also have email addresses, and I know for my part, I definitely keep an eye on my email, and I would hope others do as well. But I think that there are a variety of ways to get in contact with us, and we're really interested as a whole in getting to know your students and really allowing them and bringing them into being a part of the community. I just want to jump back quickly to the question that McLaren answered before, and say that I would really recommend to students to get involved with the student leaders and the upperclassmen that you have access to. I think that AU does a really good job of connecting younger students to older students, particularly, of course, we have RAs, but there are also peer facilitators that they have access to their entire first year. They're working with a peer facilitator in their AUX class, both first and second semester. And if they're taking a complex problems course, which I think all first years have to do, they also have a community leader in that class as well. And those students, again, are student facing. They're really excited to get involved and help freshmen, help first years really get acclimated to the university life. And so reaching out to them, talking to them about what they're involved in, and allowing them to be connectors for your students, I think is a really big piece of this as well.
Thank you. All right, Emma. So, a lot of my colleagues here as staff, we're kind of on the 9 to 5 side of things, maybe except Fanta, who's here nonstop. But, I think really, when I think of RHA, you guys carry so much of the ball for the after hours and the weekend kind of programming. Can you talk a little bit about what that's looking like? And here's one of the things that I think would be helpful for parents to get a feel for is we've got some new rules in place because of COVID, right? Like we can't just have a pizza party unless that pizza is going to be in an individual container for each slice, which is not likely, right? So you've had to do some rethinking about what it means to do campus programming. Can you share with us some of the creative ways that you're kind of getting past this?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the big things that we've been doing, or that we've done a couple times now, and we also did in the spring for the mid-semester residential experience, was having outdoor movie nights. And so that's a great way for students to meet new people and watch a movie, and it's outside. And so people feel more comfortable, they can spread out. We have our very nice amphitheater, which is over by some of the residence halls. And so we've had those. We had one actually just last week. We watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and and RHA partnered with a bunch of different student organizations to spread the word and make it more of a multicultural type of experience. And I believe we had like over 50 students show up. And so that was a really great turnout. And it was great to have the students come out and, again, feel safe by being outside. And for other events, like if we are going to have food, we use just prepackaged food just to make people, again, feel safer. We aren't serving them things. And so, yeah, those are some of the big things that have happened. And as I said, with the Hollow Week that's coming up, we have like a double feature movie night. One night we're going to be having a s'mores night. So things that are like we're focusing right now, a lot of outside things, but even inside things, we are having a haunted house, which people will be able to like come through. And so we're just very excited for those types of things. And I definitely think that just keeping in mind, like students are asked to like, wear their masks, be safe, don't get too close to each other. And so I think, yeah, I think that we're trying really hard to keep students engaged because, as I said, I'm a second year. I haven't had the same experiences as a normal college student. And so I've had definitely some of the same struggles that your students are having about getting involved and meeting new people. And I'll also say that I am more of an introvert. And so sometimes it can be harder, but I think just going out, literally just walking out to the quad, there's more than likely some group doing something out there. And you can just walk up to them and be like, hey, what is this? And learn about it. If it's not something you're interested in, that's okay, but you still tried. And I know we've already mentioned like talking to your RA and just like looking for different posters that are hung up in the halls and going on social media, seeing all these different things that are happening. I think that you don't necessarily have to go out of your way to contact all these different groups. There's a lot of things that are just there for you already so that you can quickly access.
I know that when I'm here on a Friday or Saturday late, Mary Graydon Center is buzzing until crazy hours with the gamers, right? Like those rooms are they're overflowing. And so it seems like all you need to do is show up. And if it's not your cup of tea, just go try something else, right? Emma, I'm going to come back to you for a second though, too, because I feel like RHA offers a unique kind of opportunity for students to kind of step forward with an idea, like in that you're kind of already a part of the club. Like if you're in Centennial Hall, you're a part of Centennial Hall's RHA, right? So what does that look like? If a student has an idea and they think, oh, my RA should do this, but like maybe I could do this. Like, what do they do with that idea?
Yeah, that's a great question because this is the way that it works out. Yeah, all the residents are technically a part of it in whatever capacity they want to be. So we have general assembly meetings for all, like the entirety of RHA every week. And right now they're on Zoom, but every resident is welcome to attend those, and there's a point at during the meetings where they can bring up any concerns or ideas, and they can suggest things that we could do. And as I said before, we also have smaller groups, so they're called hall councils that work within individual halls or groups of halls, and they do their own programming. So I know that I believe, like for instance, East Campus, there's the 3 different buildings over there where it's grouped together and they can plan something. And so that's where I live. And so if I wasn't actually on the e-board for RHA, I could go to the president of my hall council and be like, hey, I had this idea. I think it would get a lot of people to come out and meet each other. And so there's a lot of different people that you could connect with at different levels, depending on what you have in mind.
I think the other thing also, Karen and everyone else that I wanted to go back to for our families, is in addition to the leadership opportunities, the opportunities to be in community that we talked about, you heard from Sonali and you heard from McLaren, we have a lot of peer leaders opportunities, right? I mean, there are so many of them. Everything from, the AUX peer leaders to the orientation, sort of leaders, to the residence hall, RAs, and then to research assistants, and the list goes on. It's also important for our families to remember those connections as well, where it's about skill development, it's about leadership, it's about engagement in a myriad of forms. And I think I just wanted to make sure to emphasize that as well. And then it is also true that not every student wants to necessarily participate in these structured activities, and that's okay. That is perfectly fine. And maybe that student who says, you know what, I'm in Washington, I may be from Oregon, and I'm used to going hiking, and they want to be pretty much want to do a hike. And that might be very well, possible. And we have groups that are doing that, whether we have our hiking trail people. It's important for people to find what is it that you're passionate about and find that one thing and begin to slowly make your way through that. It's part of the other thing that I just wanted to keep reminding all of us about. It's okay. It has to be at the pace that works for us.
As I'm listening to the students speak, I'm reminded, some of you families know that I'm a double eagle. Fanta's a triple eagle. And I think it wasn't Fanta until maybe the end of my sophomore year that I really found my stride. I think first year was exploring, and I was so excited to be in Washington, D.C. and explore the city and campus. And I thought I knew everything I needed to know about my major, and I kind of didn't. So like there was figuring out that stuff. And then just finding a couple things I got really passionate about and found my people and I got to build that into the center that Marcy works with now, the Center for Community Engagement and Service. And really my whole professional trajectory came out of that. But it wasn't until after I tried a bunch of things in a couple different ways. I wanted to ask McLaren, since you've got your finger in so many different pots, I know that our standard annual club fair has passed. That was one opportunity to kind of do like speed dating with clubs. But if you can just share other ways that clubs are actively recruiting to just help folks understand that it's not just the first week that you sign up for a club. It really is an ongoing process, isn't it?
Yes, totally. And actually touching back on what Emma mentioned, seriously, you walk out to the quad and 9 times out of 10, there is somebody on the quad from some club, from some organization. And if you will, it's like that continuous acceptance basically of membership for every club. There's no time where, oh, there's a cutoff date, nothing like that. Clubs are welcome to any students at any time. So if you see any organization at any time on the quad, you can walk right up to them and you can ask, and they can put you down on their roster right then and there. Another thing that I believe one of our other students, not sure if it was Sonali or Emma, if you're walking around the halls and you see those flyers, we've got flyers everywhere on campus about all the different clubs. And basically one of the great things, we love technology, right? On these flyers, we've got QR codes, and those QR codes depends on the club. Sometimes they take you right to the Engage page. And that will actually let you join the club right then and there. And it adds you to their roster on the Engage page. So again, you've got a couple different ways you can do it. You can walk up to them right in the quad. You can join their organization on the Engage page. Another aspect that I really highly recommend to all students for any organization that I know Sonali mentioned, social media, especially Instagram, is huge. You can private message an organization or a club, and you're just say, hey, I want to get involved. When do you meet? I know I was interested in some of our religious organizations earlier this semester, and I asked, hey, when do the youth groups meet? And it's just a private message on Instagram. So that's a great way to get involved as well. It's a great way to let them know that you're interested. They can get your contact information as well, like mainly email. AU is great about sending emails, great about having flyers out of how to get involved and how to join specifically.
All right, let me ask Sonali on our last question. You know, a lot of the events that I'm sharing out to families are the online opportunities because I can invite parents to join them, which is kind of great. KPU, it's got such high profile events. Can you talk about how you're deciding to do things online or in person? What's that looking like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything for KPU right now is online. And we're doing that really for a few reasons. The first and foremost is safety of our student body, right? We want to ensure that our students are staying safe, but that they can engage with the speakers and the events that we have. The second reason is because, to be honest, we are able to bring in speakers and have conversations that we wouldn't be able to have in person. And so there's a silver lining in everything. And I think that that's a really important conversation I was having with Dr. Ra the other day when we were taking our little walk around campus is a couple weeks ago, we hosted Dr. Bernice King for Parents Weekend, and some of you may have joined us for that event. We couldn't have had her in person because she lives in Atlanta. And so I think that one of the great benefits of the online space in some situations is that we get to have opportunities that we wouldn't have in person. And so really, we gotta look at sort of the sunshine, the bright side in a lot of these situations, and see what can be achieved when we just think with a little innovation. So that is what we're doing right now. We're looking to have more hybrid opportunities and more in-person opportunities in the spring, and I think that's pretty much across the board. But it is definitely a work in progress, and we're excited about what we've been able to do in the online space to engage students in our community.
Thank you, Sonali. What a great way to end. Fanta, I know that our time tonight is ending rather quickly. Would you like to say any parting words?
No, I think again, I want to end where we started, and that is to say that it is a journey, and every student is going to have a different journey. There's not one way of doing it. The key is for us to provide as many of the opportunities as we can, understanding that it's going to take time for some students. Key is that we do have a lot of information. And I think if you leave with nothing else, please remember Engage, and then also remember Rec Fitness and the information that is available there for students to begin the journey. Also, frankly, we always say our students should go to the living room of the campus, and that's the quad. If you want to know what's going on this campus, you should be on the quad, because that's often where you have people tabling, people are in groups, people are really engaging with each other. And I think it's important to find that destination. And then most importantly, for students who are returning students, yes, this is the time to figure out how to connect. For students who are new, it's going to take a little bit more time, and that's okay. That's okay. Key is we want to make sure this first semester is as successful as possible with the academics, with the res life and housing, but also know that there are many resources, our residence hall associations, the KPU, the Center for Student Involvement, the Center for Community Engagement and Service, and the list goes on. And we'll make sure you get the information from this evening in terms of the key sort of websites that you can visit. But when your student says to you, there's nothing going on at American University, please know that is simply not the case.
Thank you, Fanta. So as I posted in the chat for you, we do have a link of our upcoming webinars. You'll find a recording of tonight's session as well as our other recent sessions posted there. And if you've got ideas for other ones, feel free to reach out. I want to thank all of my panelists and of course my superstar changemaker, AU Eagles. Thank you all and have a good night.